Hello children, myself Javeed sir from St. Joseph English Medium High School. So today we are going to begin with a new chapter from the political science, Indian foreign policy. From this chapter we are going to learn some important points. The first important is nature of Indian foreign policy. The second one is principles of Panchashila agreement, and the third one is non-alignment policy. The fourth one is disarmament, and the fifth one, that is the last, apartheid policy. Let us begin with the nature of Indian foreign policy. Do you think that an individual can live alone on this earth? Remember, it is not possible at all. An individual cannot live in an isolation because he requires some kind of relationship with others. Either it may be with the friends, with family, with relatives, or in the society. In this way, how an individual cannot live in an isolation, in the same way a country cannot live alone. It means it requires some kind of the relationship with other countries of the world. Then, can you say how you can mingle with everyone? As they have given below in the picture, there are many people who have mingled to each other. What is the reason? Just to have a proper relationship, as an individual cannot live alone because he need to have some relationship. In the same way, here there are many people who have mingled because they need to have some kind of a relationship. In the same way, a country cannot live alone. It need to mingle with some other countries of the world to have a proper relationship. But do you think that a farmer has a necessity of somebody, or a trader who is known as a businessman, or even though a richest person? They have given the picture of Mukesh Ambani. Whether they require any kind of the relationship, or there is a necessity of somebody for them or not, we have to think. Remember, yes, all the individuals, they require a necessity of somebody. There is a word which we are going to hear, that is interdependent. What is interdependent? Interdependent is nothing but depending upon others. Remember, every individual is dependent upon the other individuals. For example, let me give you an example of a farmer, how he has necessity of somebody. When a farmer is producing the goods and services, he do not depend on himself for the purpose of grazing of the crops, for the purpose of harvesting, and for the purpose of selling of the crops as well. But always he is dependent upon somebody. For the grazing, he may depend upon somebody. For harvesting, he may depend upon somebody. For the trading, that is for the selling, he is also dependent upon the others. And even though he is also dependent upon the government also, that is for the purpose of the proper rules and regulations which are there from the government. And whether a trader is having necessity of somebody or not, remember, even though a trader who is known as a businessman, he require the necessity of somebody. A trader cannot sell the goods to himself only, but he require some kind of a necessity of an individual in the form of what? In the form of a consumer or in the form of a customer. And he totally depends upon the consumer or a customer. They have given in the picture below. As the traders or the businessman, they are selling the vegetables which are also known as perishable goods also. What is meant by perishable goods? Which has a shorter span of life. The goods which have a shorter span of life, that is known as a perishable goods. As the customers, you can see who are there at the front, who are purchasing the goods. It means that traders are dependent upon customers or the consumer, means they have the necessity of customers or the consumers. Now, whether a richest man has necessity of somebody, instead he has huge amount of the property, huge amount of the assets, huge amount of the money he have, then whether a necessity is required for him or not, yes, definitely. If Mukesh Ambani is a richest man presently, he is not a richest man by himself only, he has become richest by others. How it is? You have heard in the factors of production. There are totally four factors of production which are there into the economy. The one important which is there, that is land. The second one is labor. And the second important factor which is there, that is the most important factor, which is known as a labor. And the third factor is capital, and the fourth factor is organization. Among these four factors, the most important factor is known as a labor. Remember, always entrepreneurs or the richest people who are the businessmen, they are dependent upon the employees, or they are dependent upon the laborers. For what purpose? For the work to be done by them. You may have heard one of a meaning from the management, as what is exactly meant by management, which has been said by Henry Fayol. What exactly management he has said? He has said management is nothing but it is an art of getting things done with the efforts of others. It means it is one kind of a skill where we are getting the work which is done by other is nothing but employees here, where richest people, they are getting the work which is done by others. They themselves, they are not working into the organization. And every individual on this earth is dependent upon other individual for the fulfillment of their necessities. Whether it may be a farmer, it may be a trader, it may be an entrepreneur, or it may be the employees. But all of them, they are dependent upon the other individuals for the fulfillment of their necessities. A farmer has to depend on somebody individual for the purpose of growing of the crops also, and for selling also. And a trader, he has to depend upon somebody individual for the selling of his goods and services. And even though an entrepreneur has to depend on somebody individuals, like in the form of employees, because he needs employees or the laborers for getting the work. And even though employees who are there, they are also dependent upon the entrepreneur for the purpose of getting proper income in the form of wages or salary. And in this way, can you think that a country can live alone without having any relationship or connection with other countries? No, not at all. Remember how an individual cannot live alone, in the same way a country also cannot live alone. It also requires some kind of the relationship also. For the purpose of what? For the purpose of political development, social development, intellectual development, military development, economical development, and many more also. And remember, each country will always have a relationship with other nations. For the purpose of what? To fulfill their own needs. Whenever a country is going to have a proper foreign relationship with other countries of the world, with the help of these foreign relationship, they are going to fulfill their all the needs, wants, and demands. Like, take an example, always our India is purchasing the maximum foreign goods from the other countries of the world, because for the fulfillment of our needs, we are dependent upon them, and we are having a proper foreign relationship with those countries of the world also. And some countries of the world, they don't have any kind of the proper qualitative goods and services in the form of agriculture also, or in the form of mineral resources. So they are dependent upon our India. And when they have a proper relationship with our India, then they can also fulfill their own needs when they are going to have a proper relationship. And now we need to study as how the countries will have a relationship at the international level with other countries of the world, that is with the help of the foreign policy. That's why the way a country is working or acting while dealing with the other nations is known as a foreign policy. Remember, whenever a country is going to deal with the other countries of the world, whenever a country is going to have an agreement with the other countries of the world at the international level, that kind of an agreement or deal which is done by a country is known as a foreign policy. And nowadays, remember, foreign policy has become very essential for each and every country of the world. What is the reason? Let me tell you. As in the below picture, they have given the two important maps. The one important map that is of China, and the one more important map which is there, that is of India. Both the countries are trying to have a proper relationship. They are trying to have a proper foreign relationship since the independence. Remember, always China has tried to invade into our India by saying some part of Indian territory is belonging to them. But although India has maintained a proper foreign relationship with China, but China is not trying to maintain a peace relationship with our nation. But even though, remember, into the mind, both the countries in year 1954 has made an agreement to have a proper foreign relationship, and that agreement which has been made by India and China, it is known as Panchashila agreement. As in the year 1954, the two prime ministers of India and China, the one prime minister of India was known as Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, and the prime minister of China was known as Zhou Enlai. Both of them have agreed to have a proper foreign relationship, so that only they have said, as Hindi Chinese are like bhai bhai, as Indians and Chinese are like brothers, they have said. Because of that only we have continued a proper foreign relationship. But even though there are many obstacles which are going to arise between these two nations just because of the border dispute, which are still arising as well. But if we want to have a proper foreign relationship, we need to have a proper friendly relationship between each other first. And even though, remember, out of 200 countries in the world, very few countries are strong, but most of them are weak also. As they have given the map below in the picture of the two countries, one is of Uganda and one more is of United States of America. You can see the weightage of America is going down. It means it is heavy compared to Uganda. What is the reason? Because America's economic development is high compared to the Uganda. But remember one thing into the mind, both the countries, it may be a developed country or it may be an underdeveloped country, but both of them, they have their own foreign policy. And even though, did India have such kind of foreign policy before independence or not? If had, what is the reason? If not had, what was the reason? Remember, India, it was not a sovereign country before 1947. It means it was not having its own foreign policy. Remember into the mind, in the year 1947 or on 15th of August 1947, India achieved independence, or India got independence. After achieving independence, India has put a lot of efforts to bring the foreign policy into our country. So that only Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, he has delivered a first speech on 7th of September 1946, that is to bring the proper foreign policy into our country according to Article 51 of the Constitution. Where our India, it was not a sovereign country. What is exactly meant by a sovereign country? Sovereign country is nothing but a powerful country, a highest powerful country. Where our India, it was under the control of Britishers. Then what is exactly meant by a sovereign country? Let us know here now. Remember, a sovereign country is nothing but a country which is not under the control of any other country of the world. Either it may be in the internal issues or it may be in the external issues. What is exactly sovereign country here means? A country which is not under the control of any other country in internal matters or external matters. Now our India is a powerful country. You can see in the picture which is given at the right side, as the birds are going to fly there. What it indicates here? It indicates that we have achieved independence. Now we are a sovereign country here. Now we are not under the control of any other country of the world now, in the internal matters also and in the external matters also. It means we are solving the internal matters and external matters by ourselves, but we are not dependent upon anybody and we are not dominated by anybody also, because our nation is a sovereign nation. And when actually India got independence, remember, India has achieved independence on 15th of August 1947. Now after achieving independence, what kind of the advantage or what kind of the benefit India has achieved? Yes, we have achieved a lot of benefit after getting the independence. That is, we can take our decisions by our own. The decisions of India are not being bounded by any of a country of the world. Whatever decisions are there of our country, it may be it may be related to the internal matters, or it may be related to the external matters of other countries of the world. It has been bound by our India itself. Means we are taking the decisions by our own. Now if a country is independent, can it take decisions related to the country on its own? In the same way, it can also decide what kind of relationship it should have with the other nations in the world also, and that kind of a policy which is there, it is known as a foreign policy. Remember, India has although achieved independence on 15th of August 1947, and now when we have achieved independence from the Britishers, our decisions we are going to take by our own. And even though what kind of a relationship we want to have with the international countries, with the neighboring countries, we can decide it by ourselves also. And you can see in the picture which is given above, it has been said India also has its own foreign policy after independence. It means we are going to have a proper foreign policy after 1947 into our India, where in the blue arrow mark they have shown, it indicates that we are going to have a proper foreign relationship with few important neighboring countries of the world. But they have shown in the red arrow mark on the two countries, one is Pakistan and one more is China. What this red arrow mark indicates? It indicates that these two countries are not having a proper foreign relationship with India since independence, because they are going to create problem with the two important major problems. The one major problem which is there, that is the border dispute, and the second major problem which is there, that is the terrorism. Now India has been considered presently as one of a major country of the world because of what? Because of the huge population, because of the natural resources, because of the military resources, and because of the intellectual capacity, and because of industrialist. You know, India's population presently is around 17.5% of the world's population, which is equal to 121.01 crore according to the 2011 census. But remember, presently in 2020, the population of India has crossed up to 134 crore, where we are ranking at second position in the world in the terms of population after China. And the second important, that is the natural resources. Even though we are also endowed with a huge amount of the natural resources by the nature as well, in the form of forest, in the form of greenery, in the form of petroleum, in the form of coal, and many more as well. Even though remember that India to have the huge amount of military capacity also, as we are ranking at fourth position in the world in the form of military, where even though we are also having the maximum intellectual capacities also. Intellectual capacity is nothing but the intelligent people, the sharp people, the talented people into our India, like in the form of scientists, in the form of doctors, in the form of advocates, and many more also. And even though remember that we also have the huge industrialist also. Industrialist is nothing but the industries, as there are many forms of industries which are there in our India, which has been further divided into two types. The one type of an industry is known as private industry, and the one more form of industry is known as public industry.